All right, so it's going to be one of those mornings. All right, so first off, sorry about 906. And yeah, so here's the current status of Office HD. Tried to log on, and I was getting like the slowest of these. So it's going to be one of on and off and on and off and all of that. I don't know about and I guess this is, I guess this is opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code eventually for those of you who are catching us on Twitch, YouTube, the 280 above. So take two. All right, so it's going to be one of those mornings. I see how this works. All right. The idea was to have a show that started 5 minutes ago, but apparently not. So, it's going to be one of those mornings. I see how this goes. All right. Hi, John. Hear you there? I'm going to go ahead and bring in Maddie because I think it's going to be one of those mornings. So, yeah. So the internet at the internet here at Office HD has decided to kind of have a mind of its own, and so who knows how many times I'm going to have to reconnect this morning. So that's what we've got. In a perfect world, I don't know why, and so like I said, I guess this is opening kickoff, and brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. I don't know why this is, but yeah, I don't know why this is, but folks decide that they want to repair things and they want to repair them and not tell you that they're going to repair them. I mean, I don't know if this is something that's normal or not, but that's the QR code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You use the code Sucker Down Here 15 at Kickoff Coffee. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiative stuff. They've earmarked very, very cool things with our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So I don't know. I legitimately do not know how well my connection is going to be today. So Maddie might be in charge of the show, like all of it.
Ooh.
I'm letting her know right now. But I don't know why it is about things that need to be either adjusted / repaired or what have you. But they never give you any notice. It's like, bruh, we need to kind of fix things a little bit. I mean, on the side of the road, at least DOT will tell you the hours, but they won't tell you how many lanes they trim things from like 6 to 1. They won't tell you those kinds of things.
No. I mean, the same thing happened here at my apartment like a week or two ago, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's rough. It's like a weekly occurrence here, which is always fun.
Yeah. So you end up with the activities that you want to have. It's like, look, if there's something that's going to be going on while we're doing a show,
Well, I think we lost John. So you're stuck with me for a little bit until he reconnects, which is always a fun and interesting time. But speaking of which, we'll go ahead and give you a little bit of a layout of what we're hopefully going to be doing in the morning show this morning. Hopefully, it's going to be maybe Greg Garza or Michael Parker's hopefully joining in and hopping in at around 9:30, and then Jason's going to hop in and we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming high school matches, his time getting to watch Trinity Christian versus Perry last night because he went up to Perry to go and call that match. And then we'll also talk a little bit about Atlanta United, especially because they are going to be going off and facing against Chicago Fire this weekend. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Very interesting. Gonna be a fun time. We're gonna have a great time. So with that being said, let's see if I can pull up some fun things that are happening, all over the sports world, because that's always fun. Well, let's actually talk about, if we want to talk about something, let's talk about Columbus Crew and Monterey. A fun matchup there, which is always fun. Monterey got the away goal, so that's going to be interesting, especially Columbus going to now play at Monterey since they were at Columbus. I'm interested to see how that one's going to work out. It's going to be an interesting time, that's for sure. That one's going to be interesting. But hey, listen, I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have a great show. A great show. Alrighty. So this was something that I feel like we need to talk about. I saw this on Twitter /X. I don't know if y'all saw it, but it really made me laugh. It gave me a little bit of a chuckle. Oh, hey John, you're back.
Sure, if you want to call this being back, yes. This is the alternate way of doing things. So it legitimately might end up being one of these where I look here if everything is off, and I look here if everything is on. So if I end up having like two separate camera angles, this is why. Because
so it's like be like we have a multi-view.
It might be, but right now this might be the safest way Well, Michael Valverde, with it being a Friday, Michael wants to talk about the Falcons after what happened last night. I mean, I
Oh
can
my God.
understand that. Well, but the thing is, if Jarrett joins us, I know. Well, look at it this way: the draft for quarterbacks next year, from what I understand, and I guess this might be opening kickoff too. This might be an elongated opening kickoff. But first, let me run through the traffic. The traffic for the morning. If our friends from Beyond Goals can join us at 9:30, they will. Hour number 2 is the weekend whiparound, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. And in hour number 2, Jason will join us. We'll go through everything in the high school ranks, and we will get you ready for everything else going on, especially with Atlanta United. So if you've got Atlanta United questions, we can get into that, and we can roll through everything that is on your mind when it comes to the weekend. And so once again, I apologize wholeheartedly for everything that is happening with the internet this morning, because it seems to have a mind of its own. When Jarrett joins us, Jarrett had a theory. Nick has a theory as well, and it's a couple of different ideas. So when it comes to the Falcons, right now I think there's an out after 2 years involving the quarterback. There's with Kirko Chains, I think there is there is an out after 2 seasons. So you've got that as a possibility. You also have a couple of things, and like I said, this is a Nick theory and a Jarrett theory. The 25 draft class for quarterback, very, very thin. You're looking at Milroe, Ewers, Fafita, Shadur Sanders, Carson Beck. So by comparison, if you have those, if you're looking at this year's draft class and next year's draft class at quarterback, it's a little different. So you get your quarterback now. Then
Whoa,
also,
are you talking about my man Carson Beck?
Yeah, as the 25 as part of the 25 draft class. If you were to compare Beck, Milroe, Ewers, Shadur Sanders, Fafita, Cam Ward to this year's draft class at quarterback, it's different. There is a difference. There is a gap, and so the thought may be get your quarterback now, as opposed to get your quarterback later. And then there's also the idea floating out there that if, and this is the big if in the room, that if there is a tampering charge that comes down from the National Football League to the Atlanta Falcons, that the Falcons might get hammered when it comes to losing draft picks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you get your quarterback now because you may not have a first-round draft pick next year if you get popped by the league for tampering. So bad 25 draft class, possible getting thumped by the league when it comes to a possible tampering charge. So you get it in right now. And Kefsey is absolutely correct. He's out after one spy camera loss. I mean, Kirk Cousins did the car wash. I mean, Kirk Cousins did hammer the golden spike, throws out the first pitch. But I mean, Kirk's a professional. He's going to come in. The job is his. And so it gives Michael Penix a chance to learn. So I think that's where that's where you go. And then Michael is like, yeah, if it all goes to plan, the result won't be judged for 2 years at least. Yeah. So that's what you're looking at. But so that's what you're staring at when it comes to the your Atlanta Falcons. For those of you that have the Atlanta Falcons as a part of your followings on Sundays. So there's your idea of why possibly Atlanta United on a couple of different levels picked who they picked in the first round. So yeah, so I mean that's where we at when it comes to yes.
I will say it was pretty funny when I went to the Atlanta United game and Kirk Cousins was hammering the golden spike. That happened. The next day, I went to the Braves game and I saw that it was Kirk Cousins. And I turned to my friends and I said, listen, I'm not saying that we might lose this game, but he hammered in the golden spike last night. and we lost.
So you're saying he's a jinx, basically. That's what you're getting into.
Listen, I'm just saying it.
Okay.
I saw it happen and I was like, they have the opportunity to do something really funny here. And then it happened. And you know what? Hey, love Kirk Cousins. I think he actually is going to do a good job, but I was still very flabbergasted with the pick. I really, just because of where we were, I didn't think we needed another quarterback because we have a backup quarterback. But with what you're saying, it does make sense. It
Yeah.
makes sense with how it's falling. I just at the time, I was just I was shocked.
Well, no, I mean, and think about, and like I said, this was something that that Jarrett and Nick were discussing. Think about, long before the days of social media, and it was just folks sitting at tables and wondering what was going on. If we didn't know about all this stuff with Michael Penix, and then Penix gets drafted at 8 by the Atlanta Falcons, what would the response have been on the draft tables for all of the networks that are covering the draft? Everything would have exploded. Everything would have exploded. And it would have been an absolute blast to see this happen on live television, say, I don't know, 75 years ago, in the days of black and white TV, before we had, Twitter and insiders and all this kind of stuff. I think it would have been fantastic television. And, but it is what it is at the moment. And Atlanta United wow, shows you where my brain is. The Falcons, did set the draft on on blast last night with everything going on. So no, it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be fun to see how things develop. So Michael and Kefsey are completely and totally slamming the Atlanta Falcons. Yes. So Kefsey, it's a completely unfair shoes all logic, and yes, that's what we're going with. Jinxie Cat, exactly. So yes, it is Jinxie Cat. Michael Head Cousins isn't the answer. One playoff win coming off a major injury. Alex, stop rolling the dice on the draft picks, praying they work out. Time to focus. Yes, time for the Falcons to focus on their academy. That is absolutely correct. The Falcons need to focus on their academy. That would be fantastic if you could do that. And Michael wants instant impact. And Hutch, a national holiday really should be declared today. Because it is the 90, and this is what gets me. I was talking to the boss about it last night, and we were talking about the new TV series that Carol Burnett is in. Was it Palm Springs with Kristen Wiig and everybody? Is that the name of the series? I think. But apparently she's very, very good in it. And I turned to the boss and I said, "And she's 90?" ? And she goes, "Yeah, she's 90 years old." So Hutch is moving the calendar for Carol Burnett at 91 years old. So, Carol Burnett still crushing it at 91 years old. Lesson for all of us. All right, so we got soccer to talk about. Like I said, if our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring can join us at 9:30, they can. They will. Hour number 2 is the weekend Whiparound, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. We'll go over everything in Major League Soccer, all the divisions. Jason will be joining us as well. And hopefully we will be able to catch up with folks and let everybody know what's going on with the activities on the planet. And we'll start with high school with Jason, and we'll get into our next week of ideas and matches and things like that. But we are today is the end of round number 2, and we'll get into what happened last night in a really cool environment for us at STH, going to Middle Georgia and catching up with our friends at Perry, and seeing the Trinity Christian Perry matchup with our friend Jessica Charman, who is the keeper coach for Trinity Christian, going up against Perry in a 1-4. And Perry gets the win. Perry advances. Great season for our friends at Trinity Christian. So we'll catch up with high school, focus on Atlanta United as well. So there's going to be a lot to talk about when it comes to all of the divisions coming up in hour number 2. So no, it's going to be a fun show. And noon Eastern, it's going to be Soccer's in Session Live. And we will catch up with folks. I think we're going to be getting a visit from, at the very least, our friends in LaGrange, who've won 2 matches in a row as a 4 seed. We'll catch up with them, trying to secure another couple of guests at noon Eastern. And we'll go over everything in high school then. But we'll get a bit of a preview in hour number 2 when Jason drops by to find out about Trinity Christian and Perry last night. and see what's happening as I still try and secure guests for halftime for Soccer's in Session live at noon Eastern. So if you hear me banging, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to grab coaches and try to figure out, hey, can you come on at noon? And that's the fun part with this. It's like, you want to get out of lunch? You want to get out of lunchroom duty? You want to get out of class for 10 minutes? And so that's kind of the fun part with all of this. But being able to catch up with folks all around the state, it's been really fun. So, oh, hey, we got a bot. Who knew? And so we got cheap viewers. That's not going to happen. So we'll dispose of that bot coming up in short order as well. So that's the rundown for the show this morning. Yes, and so that's what we're looking at with everything here on a Friday. We got Atlanta United, and they're heading to Chicago. The Twos are heading to Chicago. So everybody's heading to Chicago, and it will be a big weekend. Atlanta United beating Chicago when they came down here. The return fixture coming up this weekend, and we'll see what Jason sees in Chicago with their injuries, the left back situation, all those kinds of things. So across the board, we'll kind of see what's going on with Atlanta United and all the activities coming up in hour number 2. So, Maddie, what else? I know you were talking about Crew and Monterey. What else is on your mind here before we get to see what else is going on the planet, huh?
Well, first of all.
Yes.
First of all.
Oh, I think I know where this is going. So,
a Birmingham Legion.
That's what I figured. I figured we were going there.
First of all, I'm promised a Lady Electra jersey. First, and I still haven't received it. 2, you release another jersey, and it's cool. What is wrong, Jay Heaps? Listen, I don't know if you watched the show. I think you do. If you don't, well, this is the bat signal. Please. What do I need to do? I will do anything. Please. That's it. That's my rant. But anyway, back to other news. I don't know if you saw this, but this made me laugh. Did you see that there's a World War II bomb being defused at the Bundesliga soccer club?
No, I was not aware of this. Please elaborate, man.
Oh my goodness. So it's in Mainz. It's Mainz 05.
Mainz. Yeah. Well, and that's the irony being that it's Mainz 05, and you get what you're talking about. So yeah.
Yeah. So basically, an unexploded World War II bomb is set to be defused today after it was found near Mainz. And it's so funny. It was just very random. And the whole local area is being evacuated so that they can defuse this bomb. It was just really unexpected. I didn't know that was what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
It was just really funny.
Well, you just hope that that the bomb there in the building is that everyone is safe, obviously, to make sure that it's diffused properly and everything is that way.
Yeah, but, I believe everything around the stadium, all the club store, the locals who are living around the area, they have all been evacuated.
Yes.
And then they're going to defuse it today and then get it out of the stadium.
Okay. I mean, you know that in this day and age, it's going to end up with live coverage from all of the news outlets in the area where they're going to sit there. The bomb is, but honestly, first and foremost, I know that we joke about it, but more than anything, just make sure that that everyone is safe, that it's diffused properly. And I don't know how this was even discovered. Bart, we will talk about Indy 11 and what's going on there because of reports on the Sports Business Journal where Indy 11 in a USL championship, they were in the process of having a new stadium built. And they had conversations with the city of Indianapolis, and everything was fine. And it's like, we play on the campus of IUPUI, or as it's referred to, Uwe Pui, Indianapolis. They play at the Mike Carroll Stadium, and they were looking for a larger facility, and it will be intriguing to see what happens there. We'll get into that discussion coming up in hour number 2. So it is 9:30, and I'm going to go ahead and roll the open, because that means that someone is here with us to talk about our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring and all the good work that they do. It is time for the Friday Free Kick, and we will roll an open and discuss things about here. So here is the open, and we'll start our segment with Greg. So Greg Garza is with us to kick off things on Friday with the Friday Free Kick. And I saw you trying to properly hydrate, sir, before we started the segment. There is no shame in properly hydrating live on the air.
Always has to be. Usually see me with a coffee. I think I've had too much coffee, and this is. I hate getting old because I have a tooth. I had my first cavity. I'm going to say maybe 2 months ago.
Okay.
First cavity in my life ever. I'm like super organized about just always keeping clean. And dude, I feel like I have another tooth that's aching the past couple of days. So, gosh, man, I hate getting old.
No. Well, yeah, and that's the thing, is that we always sit here and say that you're just getting what is it? It's not. You're keeping the level of maturity that you have.
Yeah.
You're not getting older in the sense of the driver's license or anything. It's just that's just a number, and you get to act as young as you wish. And the problems that we have when we're like 8, 10, and 12, Greg is finally having with his teeth. So all right. So let me go here since you've already discussed this. All right. So you think you're having too much coffee, and you think that was the root cause to borrow the pun?
I don't know. I don't know if it's. I don't feel like drinking anything that's really high right now. So that's yeah. Sensitive teeth right now. But I mean, it's like I haven't done anything that's different, right? My whole entire life, I have floss every day, brush 3 times a day, mouthwash 2 times a day. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating going through it.
Well, yeah, considering that I got to have, and I know that this is fantastic radio and TV, but yeah, I got my first cap about 6 months ago. So I'm now like completely and totally anal retentive about flossing and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about this in the past, but the generational divide that you have with your mentees. I mean, not everyone you're mentoring is, in their, early 30s. You're talking about teenagers and things. How much studying and how much digging do you have to do? How much, whether it's film study or trying to talk to peers and things like that, when it comes to making sure that you're getting the message across to your mentees in ways that they understand and ways that you are comfortable in explaining things. How much research do you have you done to make sure that you're getting the message out the right way with those that are younger than you?
That's a great question. I think it's more so of just having the talent to do so. I think Mike and I are very good in getting our message across, and I think it's more so with just experience. It's like in everything I tell kids. The first time I had my first motivational speech at some middle school, it was probably the worst thing ever. It probably wasn't as great as I would be doing it now. So I don't necessarily think it's research. I think it's just experience. I think it's experience of seeing new things and bringing them to light, and whether it be from books that we read or whether it be from motivational videos that we see. I think there's a lot of things that Mike and I have created on our own, obviously from the experience of learning from others. And I think that's the beauty of mentorship, right? You get to pass the baton, and you get to kind of help these kids understand new things that maybe they've never heard before, and put it into a perspective to help them the best way possible on and off the field. But I do think it's, and you and I have talked about this before, just watching certain players. I'm not crazed about the Thiago Almadas or the guys that are just like super flashy. And that's something for me back in my career. I mean, I love him as a player, and I use him all the time as this example because he's such a flashy player. But I like watching the experienced players. I like watching the guys who don't do anything too fancy, but are able to not only survive and get by, but just that you can tell that they play with a lot of experience. Those are the type of players that I enjoy watching, because it shows that over the years they've learned how to really make their mark in things, and it helps. And you hope that the players like Miggy and like Thiago, that over time they will gain that experience. They will lose certain aspects of their game that allow them to be flashy now when they get older. And so what is their adaptability level like whenever they get older to understand how to continue to still be successful?
Maddie Cruz with Greg Garza here for the Friday Free Kick, discussing mentoring soccer and how they interact. Maddie, your first question for Greg today.
I think this is my first time actually being a part
It
of
is.
Beyond, so it's fun.
Yeah.
It is. It
Nice
is.
for my,
Welcome aboard.
my debut. This is great.
Nice to virtually meet you. I don't think
Nice
we've met
to-
in person either.
No, we have not. We have not.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I was telling John and Jason even before, like, I have been a fan of Atlanta United since the inaugural season. So my family, whenever it's Friday, they're always like, "Did you get to talk to Greg and Parky today?" And I was like, "I did." I wasn't talking, but I was there, like in the background. But I think my question is like, when you're developing young players and you're really trying to find that route, what is your advice to young kids who are trying to find who they are going to be as a player when they are in their sport? Because I feel like it's such a huge it's a huge identity to kind of be your own person and be your own player. So how do you kind of translate that with your mentoring and trying to help give the kids like their own identity?
That's a great question. I think for Mike and I, no matter what sport some of these kids play, it is helping them just create that character that goes behind who they essentially are. I think it's building that root, building those roots and that foundation to allow them to realize what their pathway to success may be. And honestly, that has nothing to do with sport. It just has everything to do with just their character and their traits, of what goes behind everything that they do. And one thing that I really, really try to pinpoint with a lot of kids is just creating good habits, good routines, good rituals. That's something that I extremely focus on and is a huge focal point for most kids, is just what good habits do they have and how to try and create that organization in their everyday lives, because that'll transfer over to the sport that they play. And it'll help them in life in general. So I think as organized as we can be as people, I think if you look at successful entrepreneurs, or if you look at successful just people in general, they are very organized people. So I think it's just trying to have them have an open mind of understanding how to, whether they aren't organized, kind of create that mindset shift, and then kind of keep the consistency going from there.
How long did it take you to be consistent in your messaging, be consistent with your approach? I know that you like to journal a lot, and you'll take your notes from that and try to apply it going forward. But how long did it take you, through all of your note taking and experience and all these kinds of things, to come up with that consistent idea, the consistent approach, and be comfortable with, okay, I think that this will be the way that I can do this, and build from that? How long did that take?
I think Mike and I were able to spitball so many ideas that we constantly write things down in our docs, right? In our Word docs, in our Google Docs. There are always ways to continue to learn and grow, and be open-minded, and we had a meeting. Mike and I had a meeting 2 days ago with a marketing agency, with a really successful marketing agency. And the first thing they said is, they said, are you guys comfortable with us giving some some advice about what you guys do and everything you guys do? Because we love the message, we love what you guys do. We feel like it can be something much greater than maybe what it already is. And Mike and I answered at the exact same time. I mean, we just said, bring it on, right? Our whole entire lives were based off criticism, if you really think about it, right? It's like being a professional athlete, you are criticized in what you do every single day. You are criticized. That word for me is just is a big word. And kids are look at that word and they're like, well, I don't do well with criticism. I don't do well with somebody trying to fix things for me, or and that's the beauty of, I think, spitballing so many ideas, is that Mike and I are also apt to learn different ways and find different paths and avenues to continue to create exercises and opportunities for these kids to learn. Somebody said criticized and critiqued. I say criticize, right? Because I would finish a game, and the first thing that most people, and so probably a lot of players do, are to go on Twitter and look at your rating, right? I mean, in a way, you are being critiqued, but I guarantee you, if I were to look at any rating of any player, there's going to be some sort of criticism within there. This guy got a 7 out of 10 today, but there's something there that he should have done better in. That's being criticized, in my personal opinion.
Maddie, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that brings up a good point. Just like, I think criticism as well. How do you kids obviously mention they don't like being critiqued, they don't like being criticized at all. How do you talk to them about the importance of criticism and how it can help improve them, not even just as a player, but as a person, as they continue out through their journey?
Yeah. Mike always says a great quote, and it's not ours, but just only accept criticism from someone you would take advice from. And that's a huge one, I think, for even any professional athlete to really understand. And I mean, somebody said constructive criticism up there, right? There's that, to me, is constructive criticism when it does come from someone that you would take advice from. So when there is criticism that's not going to help you and not going to push you forward, and it's someone maybe just in kids lingo these days, right? Talking trash or selling, right, that they use all the time.
Yeah.
Then it should mean nothing. And I think for us, we want to, just an example for the marketing agency, these are people that we want to learn from. These are people that we would definitely take advice about growing our company and our business. So of course, all the criticism, because we want to learn from them and understand what's best.
When it comes to criticism, and I know that the peers, and I think it's fairly consistent, peers have the most biting criticism. For whatever reason, it could be their ego makes them feel better about themselves if they're the one in the room that sits there and gives you the most biting criticism and puts you down that much faster, when internally you may feel threatened by what they're doing and they're being more successful than you. So it's a natural impulse to sit there and lash out and sit there and say something as biting and cutting as possible, and to be that part of a conversation among peers. Was it the same way for you when you were starting out in the game as an athlete, where, if you were crushing it and someone wasn't, were there those same kind of things like, oh, you didn't do that well today, those kinds of things? Has that been a constant in your observations, where the biting criticism from peers was there when you were starting, in addition to what we're hearing today from younger athletes?
I don't really think so. I think most athletes at that level do a pretty good job of holding themselves accountable.
Mm-hmm.
You're at that level to begin with. So you better be pretty darn good at self-assessing
Yeah.
and understanding the situation, and that there's no better person to look at in the mirror than yourself. So in those ways, I don't feel like, at least in my career, I had a lot of players that would really look towards constructive criticism for me. I think it came more so from coaches and people that I had in my corner, that would want to see me grow and help me get to that next level or phase within my career.
But were there those also that might have been in your peer group that tried to put you down and tried to have you either not listen or try to listen to other voices maybe in the back of your head to create self-doubt? Did that exist?
I think probably more so today within kids than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
I see it a lot within my mentees sometimes, where they are doubting themselves, or they have a bout of confidence to where it's maybe they heard somebody speaking and saying, "Hey, this kid didn't have a good game today." I think at the end of the day, that's that moment to where you say, "Well, is that criticism coming from someone you would take advice from? Would you take advice from that kid about playing your position?" And the answer is always going to be no. It's the good old saying of just, you're playing in Philly, or you're playing in New York, or you're playing in, I always use the Northeast because I feel like those are the most obnoxious fans. But they're yelling all these different things out from the sidelines, and especially being a left back or somebody who plays out wide, every throw in that you have, you hear some pretty bizarre things.
Oh.
And so you could easily, in those moments, I think it always kind of made me laugh, because you could always just really turn around and just be like, "Here, you want to hop in?
Scoreboard?
Yeah. Or do you just want to hop in? Just hop in right now and tell me how you do." But I think that's always going in the back of your mind. Whereas if it's someone that you really would take advice from, I was perfectly fine with Tata really getting on to me, or specifically, I remember the very first game that we played in 2018 season, where we played Houston.
Oh.
And I think that was a huge wake-up call for us.
Yes.
But I remember there was a play to where Goose played me a long ball, and it was a very difficult ball. And I headed it back to LGP. LGP gave the ball away from right there, and then they scored. I think it was maybe the second or third goal.
Yeah.
And I remember in that video room the day after, Tata just ripped me to pieces in front of everyone. And then he pulled me after the video and showed me it again, because I was in disagreement. I felt like I did the simple thing to keep the ball, keep possession. And although it was somebody else who had made the mistake, I think that was a level of expectation and pressure that he had put on me to want me to even try new things and be better. And he just gave me all these different scenarios of things that I could have done to maybe try and play forward, and not maybe play simple in those moments. Whereas most coaches would say, "Hey, you did the simple thing, and it's this guy's fault." But he ripped into me because he thought I could have maybe been a little bit more creative with the play. And so I think that in a way, it's like, man, that was a harsh bit of criticism, because it's in front of everybody. It's ripping me to pieces. But you know what? This guy's right, man. Like, I am a creative player. I do have an outstanding technical ability. I am able to receive a ball from 50 yards in the air, wherever it's coming from, and still, control it on a dime. That it really allows you to understand, okay, this guy is pushing me to realize that there are things that I can hold myself to a higher standard. And I think that's a huge stepping stone for a lot of players, but it can also be something to where I think, in my mentality, it pushed me forward rather than rip me apart in those moments. To whereas other players, it could maybe do the opposite.
because it opened a door for you to another way of approaching a situation. Yeah.
And I think that just goes from the level of respect of, this is someone I would take advice from. This guy has coached and played at the highest level, and is idolized by so many people from his playing career, and is idolized by so many people in his coaching career. That, heck yeah, man, rip into me, right? It's rip into me if there's a moment to where you feel like I could do so much better, because that just sets my bar a lot higher. And you know what? I'm gonna go out today, and the next time Goose gives me a ball like that in our possession drill, I'm gonna take a risk. I'm gonna try and be more creative.
Maddie, go for it with Greg Garza here on the Friday Free Kick.
I think one of the things that I got the chance to talk to Derek Williams a little bit about just the communication style on the field, especially being in that back line almost. When you're talking to players and you're talking to people, like when you're giving criticism, when you're relaying sort of those ideas of what maybe they could have done better and how they could have improved in this moment, how do you balance that in terms of what other people's communication style is? If they like to be, I don't want to say yelled at, but if they like to be laid into and that makes them fired up, or if maybe a little bit of like a, hey, get up, let's keep going. Like, how do you kind of distinguish that?
Those are all personal traits and leadership qualities that Mike and I speak about all the time. Michael Parkhurst is, look, I would say he's probably one of the best captains I've played under. I think it's between him and my captain that I played with in Club Tijuana, who also did a great job. Parky, they're both completely different. Parky was able to understand the different types of personalities within every room and every locker room and on the field, and understood that he could talk to me in a certain way that he couldn't talk to Julian Gressel.
Yeah.
Right. That to me is absolute leadership quality, to where, for example, Brad Guzan is going to talk to everybody the exact same way. Right. Brad is going to talk to everybody the exact same way because Brad is on, well, I'm just going to say snorting Red Bull instead of something else, but 1,000 miles an hour,
Yeah.
To where he's just always providing information, and he's intense, and it's just the way he is. And Parky is such a visual, I don't know if you can throw analytical person in there as well. Like, he studies different types of people on the field to best lead them in the right way. Joseph is people don't understand how good a leader Joseph is. And although people say, well, Joseph rips into people and would cuss people out and would just throw up his hands. But in a way, that was his leading and expecting so much more from you. Mm-hmm. And if there was a cross that I didn't give well, and he just absolutely ripped into me and was so ticked off and so mad, it was a way to tell me, one of my best assets and traits within my game is crossing. Like, I know I need to be better, and he should be ticked off. And those are the things that I think of when I think about what you just asked, Maddie, is understanding different types of personalities, and the best leaders do that. I think being a former player and understanding that, now using that experience and knowledge with everyone, I think goes more towards, and I got asked this, I think, when I was with Jason the other day at the Atlanta United. It was good to see you, John, there. Mm-hmm. It was a question that he asked me, and he said, what do you get out of mentoring? And that was a really interesting question because it was very, it was a broad question. And I said, you know what, for me, is not watching these kids grow up. That's the inevitable. The inevitable is watching these kids grow up. They're going to grow up. I don't know how they're going to grow up. I don't know how tall they're going to be. I don't know if they're going to have a beard, right? I don't know if they're going to be, what they're going to look like physically, right? Boy, girl, doesn't matter. But the coolest thing for me, I think what I get out of mentoring, maybe I've mentioned this before, but is just watching these kids mature. And so I take that back towards the level of maturity in how to receive criticism or how to give criticism when you are playing the game and how it's coming from others. It's based off your level of maturity. And that's a huge piece. That's a huge component of it as well.
Another couple of minutes here with Greg Garza on the Friday Free Kick here, and our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring at BG Mentoring on the 280 character app. Yes, hydrate, sir. Properly hydrate. We're in the home stretch. Because it comes down to investment. And I mean that not in the financial sense, but in the emotional and physical sense. We're invested in what we're doing, but it comes across in different ways, where you have Tata and his managerial style, you have Joseph and his leadership style, you have Brad and his leadership style, you have Parky and his. They're coming at you from different ideas and dimensions and angles, but it's because they're invested in what they're doing, and that's why they're presenting it in those ways. They have, it is part of their personality, but it's because they're invested, they see you're invested, and they want everyone that's attached to this to have the most successful experience possible in a situation like this.
We don't steal my quote.
Okay.
Right? Don't steal my quote. But the best coaches are not coaches. They are managers, right?
Yes, there is a difference.
Best coaches are not coaches. They are managers, right? The best coaches I ever had in my whole entire career, they were managers. They knew how to manage the emotions, the frustrations, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, all these different things. They were managers to a sense that they built championship teams. There are a lot of coaches out there. There are a lot of coaches out there. There are very few managers. And that is my personal opinion, that the best coaches are great, man. Look at any sport. Pick a sport, right?
Okay.
Look at the best coaches that have ever coached, right? They might be somewhat, and they might be somewhat really good tacticians. And I think Tata had a style of play that was, unique and different. But he managed the team so well to get the best out of every single person, emotionally, physically, in different ways, right? So you look at that coach, for example. My success, and I think it's always interesting to use your personal success, but my success in Club Tijuana when we won the championship there, we honestly, on paper, had the worst team in the league. On paper, had all rejects, people who were loaned out from different clubs, and we just blew it out of the water. And it was because of our manager. He was such a good manager. He got the best out of every single player, and did so well with that. It takes special and elite types of personalities, which we've talked about before, but there's a lot of combination of great things. So,
no doubt about it. What's the latest with Beyond Goals Mentoring?
Same old. Continuing trying to grow the game the best way possible. A lot of unique opportunities coming up in the future. Mike and I love what we do. Like we always say, it's this was a project for us in the beginning, and something that I think we can really have a safe place to say that it's continuously growing. It's definitely a grind. If I think most people probably think that, and Parky and I had this conversation even yesterday, most people people think as a professional athlete, when you finish something, you just want to step into the easiest thing possible. And I can see why, right? Because most players, where do they lead to? They lead to becoming a coach, because it's an easy buy-in because you've been used to it for so long. It's really hard to step into something that is maybe not in your comfort zone. And I think for Parky and I, this is learning business and learning analytics and learning so many different things that I think we have really taken time to build, it's been a constant grind. It's 24/7, always learning and reading and providing new information and coming up with different ideas on how to grow beyond goals. But I'm sure him and I would not have it any other way.
Absolutely, and that's why we like to check in on the journey every single week that you and Parky can drop in, and we all take the growth steps together. Greg, my friend, it's always great to see you. Great to see you out in the field. Great to see you here on Fridays, and we will catch up with you soon. And you can keep updating us and let us know about all the topics that pop into my head every single day that I've got to ask Greg, and I write down so we can catch up with only one or two of them on a Friday. Thanks for hanging out, my friend.
Sounds good. Yeah, Maddie, thanks for hanging out with us as well. Feel free to hang out. John, I always tell you, man, feel free to bring other people.
Oh, yeah.
Who do we have? Who do we have this weekend, by the way?
What with Atlanta? It's up going up to Chicago.
Okay.
So it is.
I was just there a couple weeks ago.
Possibly shit. Yeah, when you were in a hotel when you did the segment with us.
Yes.
It's possibly shaking hands with Andrew Gutman, and because Gut was on the bench last time out and he's recovering from an injury. So Atlanta United on the road in Soldier Field, and that'll be on Saturday night. So that's next up for the first team, and we'll see what happens. But got to get some points on the road
for sure.
All right.
See you guys.
Be well. All right. So there's Greg, and Greg's going to go hydrate and do other things, and properly hydrate. Hydrate. That's one of the things I've learned from Greg. Make sure that you're properly hydrated when you're doing these segments. And so
I'm caffeinated. So
yes,
I am the opposite.
Well, and for me, I was trying to figure out, okay, how can I, try and caffeinate and get things figured out, but the internet kind of stepped in the way, so had to get all that squared away this morning. So now, so Abby's volunteering to crash. I know that Bart would crash given the opportunity. There are a lot of folks. So what did you think about your first Friday free kick with Greg Garza? Now you can actually tell your parents that you were on the show with Greg Garza.
I know. Listen, it was so surreal. I don't think I registered that we were doing. It was Friday until Greg Garza was on.
Yeah.
And then I also was like, my little fangirl moment too. I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to Greg Garza. And so it was it's fun. I mean, it's great. I always loved him and Michael Parkhurst as a player. I thought they both were so, like, the way they presented themselves on the field as well as off the field is what I think a lot of fans really admired about both of them. And I mean, just getting to talk to them a little bit about what they're trying to do, at least in the youth stage for soccer, I think it's so important to talk about because I feel like with the development of everything going on right now, you have to. And I think it's cool. It's so cool.
Okay. Bart is volunteering to drop by. It is weekend Whiparound, where we blow through all the news. We haven't even gotten into the news of the morning because the internet slowed us down.
Stupid internet.
Yeah, stupid internet. It looks like in the Prem, it looks like both Julian Lopetegui and Paulo Fonseca are on the final list for the discussions for the gig at West Ham if they choose not to keep David Moyes. It also appears that Richard Masters, the head of the Premier League, he was asked about it. Yes, Abby, please be safe in laying your sod and have a 5-stripe Friday. TIFO help needed. Check with Abby. So check with your supporters group for the new TIFO. So this is the public service announcement from Abby for the new TIFO. So please consult your supporters groups. Help out with the new TIFO. It appears that Richard Masters was asked about Manchester City, and everybody's wondering, okay, so you're working on Everton, you're working on Varringham Forest. What about Manchester City? So Richard Masters, he was asked about it. He's the head of the Premier League, and he says he was asked, and he goes, and here's his quote. That he says the hearing into Manchester City's 115 charges will take place, quote, in the near future, end quote. The closest he has come to indicating a date. That's from Ben Rumsby over at the Telegraph. So yes, Richard Masters is like, yeah, in the near future. In the near future. Sure. Okay, cool. Great. In the near future could mean when I turn 72. And that's not for a while. But yes, in the near future, it appears that Manchester City will be coming in front of the tribunal for the 115 charges. There will be billable hours. The winners truly will be the barristers and the lawyers. It also appears that PSG is now in the sweepstakes along with Real Madrid and Manchester City for the £100 million release clause for Bruno Guimaraes. Alex, cover your ears. Looks like, obviously, to get in line with profit and sustainability rules, it looks like that some players might have to be jettisoned, and one of them might be Guimaraes. Newcastle paid $35 million to sign him from Lyon in January of 22, but the release clause is 100, and we'll see if PSG, Manchester City et al. Will be remotely interested in paying that, and see what happens from there. Yesterday, Manchester City took care of Brighton, no problem. And Manchester City still has a match in hand, and they can jump over Arsenal and take the points lead in the Premier League race. It is anticipated that that will, in fact, happen. Bart was mentioning before Greg came on at the bottom of the last hour about Indianapolis. And Bart was wondering about the status of perhaps Major League Soccer and Indy. Indy was in the process of having Indy 11 going into a new stadium, shiny new thing, going to be great for the city of Indianapolis, and they wouldn't have to play at Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis anymore at the mic. But as it appears that now the city of Indianapolis, Keystone Group, they're supposed to be working to develop 11 Park, made claims Thursday that the city was backing out of a good faith deal. It came hours before Mayor Joe Hogsett announced an effort to bring an MLS team to Indy. So Keystone was working to develop the $1 billion 18-acre complex centered around a 20,000-seat multipurpose stadium to serve as the home for Indy 11. 11 Park was going to have live, work, play, 600-plus apartments, all that kind of stuff. Does that sound familiar? Now it appears Keystone Group is claiming the plans are in jeopardy. The group said yesterday due to the city of Indianapolis pulling out of a previously agreed upon deal. In a news release, Keystone said that Joe Hogsett, the mayor, is in the process of walking away from what they called years of good faith negotiations. The Keystone came out with their statement. Group also claimed that the project, despite doubling in budget, had a developer guaranteed partnership that wouldn't pose any new taxes to Indy residents. They called Hogsett's alleged decision troubling, disappointing, and concerning. Mayor Joe Hogsett had a press conference yesterday previewing an event as a major announcement for the future of Indy sports. Hogsett's officials spoke to reporters, explained that there was reportedly never a solidified deal made between the city and Keystone. Rather, Hogsett's office said there was a proposal made between Keystone and Indy 11 and nothing more. This despite the fact Hogsett himself attended an event, and this is from our friends at WXIN in Indianapolis. Despite the fact Hogsett himself attended an event surrounding the development of 11 Park, which officials said was not a city endorsement of the project. The actual news conference an hour later, yesterday, the mayor announced the city's recent efforts to bring an MLS team to Indy. He exited the stage without taking any questions. The proposed stadium site for the hypothetical MLS team is also in the downtown area, and there are a lot of angry folks when it comes to Indy and perhaps Major League Soccer. Jared Smith joins us for hour number 2. Hi, Jared.
Hello.
So we were discussing things going on. We actually, as we were dancing,
Indianapolis.
well, that in Indianapolis, yes. So Indy 11 said they had a deal with Keystone to build, live, work, play, and the mayor of Indianapolis decided apparently yesterday that no, you don't, and we're going to build a new facility trying to bring Major League Soccer to Indianapolis instead. So once again, we have dueling efforts, and I said, you said, we all said, and so we're at an impasse when it comes to political posturing now in the city of Indianapolis involving Major League Soccer and soccer in general.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like we've gone from, and everybody wants to do the live, work, play thing now that the Braves did it, and Zimbalist wrote a glowing economic review that was funded by the Braves. That's neither here nor there.
Yes.
Everyone has decided that's the way forward. This is just going to get stupid and ugly, and this kind of feels like, on the surface, we don't know all the details yet. So much of it is he said, she said, but it almost feels like I'm holding out from going to the prom with you on the off chance that so and so asks me instead.
Mhm.
and that I can pull this off.
So you're looking for a better prom date is what you're asking for?
Well, and a lot of this also depends on was anything signed between Indy 11 and the city. Because if it's a verbal agreement, while you might register it as a dick move, there might not be anything illegal about it. Now, if there
Yes.
was something written, then that's an entirely different kettle of fish that we have to fry up.
Yes. We've got a full weekend of stuff. Jason's set to join us here in hour number 2 from somewhere between Middle Georgia and here as he gets ready for the activity involving Atlanta United and Chicago Fire. We've got that. We've got all the juice boxes in Major League Soccer. We've got USL Championship to talk about, League One, all the stuff, all the things coming up here in about an hour's time where we blow through everything. And speaking of the man, here in hour number 2, Jason está aquí. Welcome.
What's up?
Where are you?
I am right down the street from a 5A Elite 8 high school for the first time in boys soccer history. I'm in Flippin, Georgia.
Yes, and that is Flippen, comma, Georgia.
Yes, supporting the Flippin' Birds.
Yes, the Flippin' Birds. Eagles Landing High School, upper left-hand corner of your brackets as you fill them out in pen. And Eagles Landing has made it to that particular round of the playoffs. What has it been like for Eagles Landing High alum Jason Longshore to see this happen?
We're all very confused by this because this has never happened before. The 30th anniversary of soccer at the school. 1994 was the first time that they had a team. First time they really had a graduating class as well. I was in the 95 class. 94, they didn't play a region schedule. They just played games that they could get. 95 was the first year we played a region schedule. We got into the state tournament then. Back then you had sub-region titles and it was all confusing. And
yes.
Won the sub-region, got knocked out by Woodward, and they've had a couple of runs over the years, but this is the deepest that they've been. It's really cool to see. They'll play Midtown, and then the winner of that plays the winner of Dalton and McIntosh, which is a heavyweight battle on the opposite side of that bracket. So it's been fun to see all of these brackets and teams show out here as we get into the quarterfinals and semifinals next week.
No doubt about it. Before I hand it over to Maddie and Jarrett for questions, how was it last night at the Herb with Perry and Trinity Christian on the Soccer Down Here network?
The Panther Pit. It was cool. Perry got the win. Interesting game. Trinity Christian was missing one of their top players due to injury in the last regular season game. That definitely had an impact on their offense. Their goalkeeper, McCord, was outstanding. Freshman. She kept them in it. Made a couple of outstanding saves. The goal was a free kick from about 30 yards out. Really good game and a great atmosphere down at Perry. Had a chance to catch up with Coach Dooley afterwards. They're excited about their trip up to Lovett. They know how difficult that's going to be, but this is a team in Perry that their last 4 years in region play, they are 44-0. They've conceded only 3 goals this year. Now, we are talking a different level of competition, and that's the challenge for teams in some regions when they get out of region and Perry get to the quarterfinals. It's a big deal. Can they take that next step? It's going to be a huge challenge.
Ladies first, Madison Cruz for Jason Longshore here in hour number 2.
Ooh, I guess my question is, hold on. My voice just dropped a whole octave. Forgive me. We're back now. Everything's fine. I guess from looking at all the other scores around the Georgia high school playoff scene, were there any games that surprised you? Were there any matchups that you were interested in and kept up with as you were calling the Perry game? I know it was kind of difficult, but when you had the chance to look at some of them, like, were there any that shocked you?
Yeah, nothing yesterday. I think one of the bigger games that I had circled was on the girls' side in 5A with McIntosh and Chambly from earlier in the week. Chambly, the defending state champions, but as we saw them earlier in the year, they're not the same team. Some of their top players weren't playing at that point. They put it together and went on a huge run in region play and were really difficult. And I don't know exactly how their roster evolved And look, this is the challenge, I think, when you're talking high school soccer, and you see it on both sides, boys and girls, but you see it in different ways in different schools. We've seen some Atlanta United Academy players go back and play their senior year in high school. Luke Hutzel had a great year at Archer. Stephen Herlock has played in high school alongside playing in the academy. So you're seeing some players drop in and drop out in schools into some of these teams. And it's fascinating to see those effects. Chambly last year was one of the best girls teams that maybe the state has ever had. And when you're talking about a player like Soleil Washington, who then played in a World Cup, maybe as she starts to look at what's next for her future, playing her senior year in high school doesn't fit where she's headed. For others, maybe it does fit. So high school soccer, and look, I mean, John, you probably see this with high school football as well, and it's going to evolve where players will come and go and drop in and drop out. I know it's going to happen in basketball as well, as you have alternative routes to whatever your career ends up being. It's going to be a fascinating subplot to all of it, but the growth and quality level of the game across the board has been the biggest thing for me as we've been able to get out this week. And the two games that we've done have both been very close, very competitive, well played, well coached as well. Some interesting things going on tactically. So I think that's only going to improve as we continue to progress.
I guess my question for you, Jason, is looking at all of this, and I know you're down in Middle Georgia right now, and it's tough to keep track of everything.
Hey, Flippin's not quite Middle Georgia, Jarrett. Let's chill out a little bit. No offense to Middle Georgia, but we're not that far away.
Yeah, how close are you to the Nat line then?
I mean, Flippin is above the Nat line, I believe.
Okay, well, God bless it for it. I don't want to be south of the Nat line if I can help it.
You've never heard of Flippin, Georgia, have you?
I thought you were making it up at first.
No, it's not officially a town, I think, but it's next to McDonough.
That's awesome, though. I love that it's the Flippin' Birds, too.
We were the Flippin' Birds. That was what we said in high school.
Yeah, the Jodico Road exit. Jodico Road and Flippin'. That's where they are.
Yeah, we're the Flippin' Birds.
But when you said Flippin', the first thing that went in my mind was the mascot has to be a bird, right? Yes. Okay,
well,
you said yes.
Well,
okay.
Then you add it's Eagles Landing, and of course, if you're Eagles Landing, you have to be the Eagles. I mean, there's just no way around that, right? You can't be something else.
No.
So Eagles Landing, Golden Eagles, and then of course we are the Flippin' Birds.
Yes.
Perfect.
But do we need to market a T-shirt now for the Flippin' Birds since they've made the playoffs?
The fact that it hasn't been done already is very disappointing.
I think we need to add the Flippin' Birds to our gear site, no doubt.
I guess before we get to all the shenanigans that are coming up this weekend, I want to ask about the rest of the high school playoffs. For those who are not in the know, is there any, I guess, for lack of a better word, and because when I ask this, I don't mean it insultingly, is there any Cinderella sort of story that people can keep an eye on of a team who, quote unquote, aren't supposed to be here according to some people, but just keep winning?
I think the stories you're looking for in that, like last year it was Roswell in the girls' side in 6A, who were the fourth team out of the region, but then went on a run and won the state title. That's really difficult to do. There's still a few teams that are alive like that. I'm always looking at the teams from outside the metro areas for them to make runs. That's always exciting to me, just looking at the growth of the game. We know where some of the powerhouses are and what to look for there. But I love to see a story like Perry. You know, can Perry come up to Atlanta and beat Lovett? I think a lot of people would look at Perry as a Cinderella story. A school without a big soccer pedigree, but making one as we speak. So Eagles Landing is another one. I mean, that's a Cinderella story. If they beat Midtown in Atlanta this weekend or this week, and then get to play in a state semifinal against either Dalton or McIntosh, I mean, that's never happened for Eagles Landing. It's never happened for a Henry County school that I can think of. You've had a couple schools make runs here and there. You've had players go on and play in college, but it hasn't happened often. I think the games that you're starting to look at, we've talked a lot about Dalton McIntosh. That's two blue bloods in very different parts of the state, different styles, different makeups of those teams. That's going to be a blast. But I'm looking at Perry. I'm looking at Eagles Landing, obviously. Freeman, who made a run last year in the girls' side to the state championship game, can they continue to progress? Those are the ones that come to mind, that we're starting to see some emerging teams in the state and from places that you might not expect.
Yeah. Northside Columbus is a 4 seed that's won twice. LaGrange is a 4 seed that's won twice. We're going to have LaGrange's head coach on and Soccer's in Session Live along with John Bowen from Starters Mill. You've got programs like Fitzgerald, who could have both boys and girls teams in the final 8 if they get to the win today.
Yep.
Jeff Davis, we've talked to Coach Lawson. They're close tonight. If you're anywhere near the Pinelands, Appling County at Jeff Davis, AA boys, good luck getting a ticket. I want pictures. That's going to be wall-to-wall people, and that's going to be a fantastic environment for football in Middle Georgia there in the Pinelands in Jeff Davis County.
Yeah, that's been the thing that I think has been the coolest to see this season, is the atmospheres and how they've developed. And when you hear, like last night at Perry, when the Perry boys team was there to support the girls team and making chants like they've heard at Atlanta United games or on TV, and making noise and supporting their other team at the school, that stuff is so cool. And you're seeing the effects of what Atlanta United fandom and culture and all of that is having on soccer all over the state. It's massive, and it's only really starting to take hold as you now have kids in high school who have grown up knowing what a pro soccer team is like because they've had it for most of their soccer life. That's only going to continue to grow and be more impactful over the next generations.
All right, let's get into Atlanta United. When are you leaving for Chicago, by the way?
In a few hours.
Okay. Atlanta United, Chicago down here at Mercedes-Benz. Atlanta United took care of business. I guess the first question is, for Atlanta United to take care of business at Soldier Field, what is the injury situation, and how are folks looking on the injury sheet and the availability sheet heading north?
Sounds like Yorgos Yakimakis is back to maybe not full fitness, but back to starting level fitness with a good week of training for him. Stian Gregerson has trained this week. It's been modified, but he has trained consistently. So Gonzalo Pineda said yesterday expects him to play a role on Saturday. So I would assume he's available off the bench. No Shande Silva. He had a re-aggravation, it sounds like, of the injury that had kept him out previously. Williams and TRA are progressing, but they're not ready yet. So I think the biggest thing is getting Yakimakis back in from the start, because one of the elements as you look at Atlanta United in 2024 and you try to make sense of some of these weird goals that have happened. I mean, last year you had some very specific kinds of mistakes that we talked about in terms of goals conceded. This team's much better defensively. There's just no way around it. But they have given up these weird goals. So, okay, what are you looking at to get results in some of these games? For me, I think they have to play better in the first half. And you look at where Atlanta's scoring their goals, it is predominantly in the second half, which is not a bad thing. It's just when you can get goals early, because we've talked about this a lot about game state. You get goals early, you can then take care of your business earlier as well. And this is a team, and this is a league where, you get multiple goal leads, typically you're going to get wins. And if you can get those early and not have to suffer through 90 minutes to where one weird out of character mistake can flip the momentum and crush you, you're in a much better position. Getting Yorgos Yakimakis to start is a big help in doing that. But you've got to be better in the first half on the road, in my opinion, in Chicago, to be able to make it more comfortable to get a result coming out of
Maddie Cruz for Jason.
Yeah, I mean, from what we saw, obviously in training, a lot of the discussion has been about how the team is going to respond because of the last couple of matches, especially with the film review and what we know and everything like that. I mean, in your opinion, have you noticed a shift? Have you noticed anything more specifically that seems to be that they were working on in training? And also, too, what needs to be done in order to go into Chicago tomorrow and get another 3 points and really come out of that stronger than before?
Yeah, I don't think it's things that you're going to see on the field and in training, because I don't think it's anything about the tactics. I don't think it's anything about the way that the team plays. I don't think it's game model. I didn't think it was last year either, and I think last year you had a different issue. This year, in my opinion, it's putting games away, and it is making the right decisions at the right moments. The Edwin Mosquera decision to play the ball back against Philadelphia, the decision was correct, the execution was wrong. Last week against Cincinnati, the execution was wrong on the short corner that gave Cincinnati the opening, and they go and break and score. The execution was wrong, but the decision was also wrong. That's a moment where you have to weigh risk reward in doing that. The reward is pretty good if you pull that off, because that's a sequence that we've seen work very well for Atlanta United. But the risk is too high in that moment. And that's the overall, I think, awareness. And look, I think people will take comments made by players and coaches and maybe make them too general, or try to find a narrative in the comment that it's looking a little too hard. When players and Pineda talk about focus and in these moments, it's not about saying they're not paying attention to the game that they're playing. That's the simplistic way of looking at it. That's what we would have in a U10 or a U12 game, where we're talking about a kid getting distracted by a plane flying overhead. That's not what happens here. Like, it's not focused to that degree. It's focused to the degree of, you're in a huge stadium, everybody's screaming and going nuts. You have a 1-goal lead. You feel like you have the momentum. You feel really good about where you are. You like this idea to play a short corner in that moment because it's worked, and it's something you've worked on, and it's something you have confidence in. But you have to process very quickly, under a lot of pressure, is it worth trying it here, where we just made 3 subs? Guys are trying to get organized. And if we don't execute this well, we could be giving up a break the other way. That's the kind of focus we're talking about. We're not talking about guys not caring, not paying attention, off daydreaming. That's not what we're talking about. So let's not oversimplify things. We're talking about processing decisions with a lot of stuff going on in a very short period of time. That's what separates good from great. And that's where you are right now, because you outplayed Philadelphia. You should have gotten 3 points there. You did. Cincinnati, you slightly outplayed, not by a wide margin. It was a much tougher game. It was 2-50-50 for me, and that's something we've talked about with Cincinnati over the years. They do a good job of making games transition-based. I don't like that kind of a game. I don't feel like you have the control. But you outplayed Cincinnati. You had the 1-goal lead. You were in control. You were in a good spot. And because of those moments, the game flips on you. The other side of it, and something else you won't see on the training pitch, and I don't think will necessarily be a film review thing. I think it's a conversation thing. In those moments where, all right, execution combined with the decision, things go against you. You go from a lead to maybe a lesser lead, or a lead to a draw. How do you react? And it's hard. Look, it's not easy. You have all the momentum, and it's like the wind gets sucked out of you. Like a balloon, the air goes out. Like, that happens. That's real. You're not robots. Like, this is real emotion. How do you handle it? I mentioned it in New York City. I thought they did a great job of when they conceded the penalty, coming together and making sure, hey, we're okay. We're the better team right now. We have to go get a goal to equalize here, but we're the better team. Don't let one turn into two. Now against Philadelphia and against Cincinnati, that happened. That's got to change because mistakes will happen. Bad decisions will happen. Great players make mistakes. Great players make bad decisions from time to time. It can't be multiplied like it was against Philadelphia and Cincinnati. And that's where the team's got to have that inner belief, that inner confidence, and where players waver in that because everybody does, even the greats. Someone has to take control. If that's Brad Kazan, if that's Brooks Lennon, if that's Yorgos Yakimakis, if that's other leaders within the team, they've got to take control in those moments. And you can't let games get away from you when the momentum flips. That's where you've got to hold on. That's where you've got to sustain. That's where you've got to survive to flip the momentum back your way.
Jarrett, last question for Jason, because Jason's got to like drive home and pack and go to Chicago.
That's
Yes.
unnecessary. It's overrated. He can get in a U-Haul with John Candy and go in a polka van. That's what
No.
he should do.
No,
Those aren't pillows.
no, definitely no.
Just the flat no. I want to ask about the left wing and how you progress with this position in early 2024. It's an area that you haven't gotten the consistent production that you've looked for out of it. Shante Silva, even when he's been healthy, has underachieved, I think, from what your expectation was. Tyler Wolff hasn't recaptured yet what he did in the second half of 2023. And Evan Mosquera looks like a monster that you want to put on the field in the last 45 minutes of games. How do you deal with that left wing and try and maximize the productivity there to counter what you're already getting on the right side?
Somebody's got to make it their own. That's just what it comes down to. Somebody's got to grab that position and claim it. Silva hasn't. Andy's had injuries, so he hadn't claimed it fully before. He was pretty good to start the season. Tyler Wolff had opportunities, hasn't claimed it. Derek Etienne tried to get back into the conversation, didn't. Edwin Mosquera, I think, is the guy right now. He's the one that I think is who should start. And I didn't think, and I think I might be the only one, I didn't think he had a bad game against Cincinnati. I think right now he's a player who is probably more impactful off the bench. You don't have that luxury at the moment because I think he's your best option to start as well. You have to figure that out. Does it get into a conversation of moving Lob Janidze over to that side and playing Mosquera on the right, or bringing a Luke Brennan into the conversation? He's got to show that he's ready. I think he's made a jump. I think he had a good season last year. I thought he was better than the numbers showed with MLS Next Pro. I thought he had a good preseason. I think he's grown a little bit. I think he's got the size to be able to handle physicality in MLS. It is a step up from Next Pro. If nobody claims the position right now, I think you're gonna have that door open for Brennan, and maybe that door opens in the Open Cup, and that might be the opportunity for him to stake his claim there. But the longer it stays open, the more you've got to figure out how do you get more balanced production. Because if you're lopsided to the right, teams will start to game plan for that. Teams will start to take that away from you. And they'll say, beat us on the opposite side. And somebody's got to do that. And how you do that is going to be a big factor in everything else that we've talked about. Putting games away, getting better starts, all those things. You've got to have more production from the left side. And you don't want to do that by taking Caleb Wiley and doing different things with him, not moving him to the wing, but asking him to make a bunch of runs forward, because then that means Lennon has to stay home a little bit more, and you don't want to take away from the right side. You need your left winger to be more productive, to have more gravity, to draw defenders that way. Go back to the Columbus game last year in the playoffs where Shante Silva had that gravity. You played to him consistently. That opened the game up for the right side. You've got to get back to that one way or another. If it's Silva when he gets healthy, If it's Wolf stepping up and showing what he did last year, especially in the second half, if it's Mosquera showing that he can play 60, 75 minutes and be impactful, you have to get something out of one of those three. And if you don't, then the door's open for Luke Brennan, and he's got to take that opportunity. You never know when that door opens for you as a young player breaking through. Sometimes it's injury, sometimes it's lack of form, sometimes it's a combination of all of the above. If it opens for Luke, he's got to take it. He's got the ability. I think he's got some things that really outside of Mosquera, and no one else has the 1v1 ability that Brennan has. Can he run with that opportunity if he gets it? I don't know. These next few games, and especially that Open Cup game, are going to be really interesting to determining who is your left winger in the biggest moments the rest of the way.
Broadcast plans for Chicago, sir.
7:30, Five Stripes Countdown on 92.9 The Game, the Odyssey app, 8:40 kickoff. We're not on Apple TV MLS Season Pass this week. They haven't added the road radio yet. Keep letting them know that you'd like to have that if you do, and you can sync us up with Odyssey. It's actually really close. Use the Odyssey app. That's the best way to do it. And full-time report will follow, and then be back home. And then, look, it's a busy weekend for all of us. Maddie and John will be up in Canton for the Georgia Impact kickoff for their WPSL season. That's tonight. You'll hear some content coming out of that over the weekend. Sunday, Atlanta United 2. John will have the call for you on that in the afternoon against Chicago Fire 2. I'm doing a show down in McDonough. It's a fundraiser for the Southern Crescent Soccer Foundation at Sweet Auburn Barbecue in McDonough. Probably we'll talk some Eagles Landing soccer, probably talk some Georgia Revolution as well, and we'll recap the weekend with Atlanta against Chicago, both on the first and the second team level.
Flipping birds. We got to add that to the stacks of the gear.
Let's go, flipping birds. Let's go.
All right, Jason's got to go catch a plane and get ready for that. Be safe, my friend. Great call last night. Another cool environment on the network with Perry hosting, our friends from Trinity Christian. Just be safe. Have a good call. We'll catch up with you soon.
Adios, y'all.
There goes Jason. And so that's where we are. You know, we don't know the injury situation for Chicago last time out. They were hurting at left back, and I mean that in every sense of the word. They did not have Chase Gasper in the last match. He was not even in the 18. Andrew Gutman was in the 18, did not start. Our favorite little ball of hate, Johnny Dean, was a part of the equation on the left. So once again, it probably means that a team that is hurting on the left-hand side, both figuratively and literally, defensively, looks like it could be another opportunity for Atlanta United to get some things done on the left-hand side. Or do you do what Cincinnati did, as Jason mentioned, where they flopped Miles Robinson from right center back to left center back, brought in Nick Haglund until Haglund got injured? Do you favor that left and figure out what to do there? Bart has a question for you, Jarrett. How many Reds will we see in Chicago this time with an over-under of 1.5?
Oh, my God. Do we know who's doing the game? Do we have ref assignments yet?
Yeah, we do.
Who is it? Here we go. MLS referee assignments from Pro. Why is it not loading?
Because, well, why is it not loading?
I don't know.
Why is it not loading?
That's going to dictate my answer, because I'm tempted to say the under here. But then, if it's like, if you get Chris Penso in the middle, who likes to throw his weight around and get emotional when he's
Philip
not
Duyet is the man in the middle.
When he's not allegedly threatening replacement officials, he leads a busy life.
Yeah.
Then I would say over 1.5.
Okay. So Philip Duyet is the man in the middle. Jeffrey Swartzel, Justin Howard, Brendan Stevis is your fourth. VAR is Jorge Gonzalez. Your AVAR is Robert Schapp.
I'm going to take the under with the expectation that I'm going to somehow be wrong.
Okay.
It will be dumb. Yeah, so here's the thing about this game for me is, I think we've talked about it some, is that Chicago's in a bad place right now. They got mollywopped by RSL. we talked about before. Like, this is a team that's, you got guys who are getting to the point where you're playing for jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And if Atlanta does what Atlanta is capable of, do people start lashing out physically and getting frustrated?
And that's, that's where we are. We're looking at this one. So let's check the stats on Dujic from referee stats. Our friends at Pro, they kind of bury the numbers, and they don't have anything from 2024 yet. Dujic last season had 19 games in the middle, 418 fouls. So that gives you what? 22 fouls issued on average. 19 times 2 is 38. Then that leaves you with 19. So 21.5, 21.6, 21.7, somewhere in there for this is 2023 numbers. So Dujic was low 20s when it came to whistles a match. He issued 65 yellows, so 3.4 yellow cards and 4 reds in 19 matches. So just over 20 fouls, 3.4 yellows per match last year, and 4 red cards in 19 games. So that's where we are with Dujic and his numbers in the middle. So
Oh joy.
yeah.
Well,
so
yeah, some of this is just going to be dictated by how Chicago deals with the game. Chicago is eternally trying to figure themselves out in a degree that, like, that I don't think most people are used to having to deal with.
Yeah.
They're a very good case for, like, you think you're having a bad day, you're not Chicago. He's handed out at least 5 cards in all 3 matches throughout the season.
So this is where
I could absolutely see, like, 3 or 4 transition yellows in this game.
Right. So my question for Bart is, where are you coming up with 24 numbers? Because all I can find are 23 numbers. So please, if you would, sir, in the Twitch pitch,
Bart
let me know.
Bart might have the sacred text of officiating.
Well, if Bart has the sacred text of officiating, if Bart has the STO, we need to know. Soccer way. Thank you. Okay. So
I just have the sacred text. That's okay.
Sacred texts are good, but if I can find something that has up-to-date refereeing numbers, I will take those instead than using 2023 numbers when it comes to what we're staring at. So Soccer Way, all right. So Soccer Way will be now where I reference things, and I'm glad that you, sir, have found them, including the 2024 number, since Pro decided, I'm guessing because of a work stoppage, not to allow 24 numbers to come until you actually had yes, the referee ancestors. Okay, this is how Bart comes up with his numbers. He says the referee ancestors bestow the information on him. So that is.
I want to believe that that's exactly how it works, and it's kind of like Mulan, where Bart goes into the temple and starts lighting incense, and then I guess Eddie Murphy as a dragon comes down and hands him out the stats that he needs based on whatever referee is available at the time.
Your stats is your stats. There you go.
I mean,
literally something like that. All I can think of is Donkey in Shrek, that kind of a voice.
Have you not seen Mulan?
No, I've not seen Mulan. I don't have a daughter.
Don't watch the live action version. Just go watch the animated
go with
version.
the original, obviously.
Yeah.
Looking at juice boxes and such for our matches in Major League Soccer, since we're discussing Atlanta United right now, the numbers for Atlanta United on the weekend, it is Atlanta United is a slight underdog. Fire's plus 136 at home, and Atlanta United's a plus 172. So that's where we are. Maddie, keys to victory for Atlanta United going up against Chicago. Go. What do you think?
Oh, gosh. I mean, stay focused. Concentration is the key. I mean, the last couple of matches, you've controlled the game and you've really been the better team, but you just have those lapses of judgment and they can be costly. I mean, we've heard it from all over, lack of concentration. Like it can really affect you. It can lead to some moments you can't take back. So I think another thing too is, I mean, if you have a goal, continue to play.
Yep.
Continue to work. Don't think because you have one goal that you're safe. That can't happen. You have to continue and you have to play until that final whistle is blown. And you cannot lose focus or concentration at that because, I mean, Chicago's going to try to exploit it. They're going to. That's just going to happen.
3 goals given up in 13 minutes in the first half by Chicago last time out against RSL. Gomez in the 24th. Chicho Arango had a brace in 4 minutes. Diego Luna scored at 90+3. That made it 4-0. Lineup last time for Chicago, Jarrett, to the point that we were discussing, it was something akin to a 4-2-3-1. Chris Brady was in net. Left to right at the back, Aragoni, Sijos, Teran, and Soquet. 2 in the midfield in front of them, Federico Navarro and Kellen Acosta. Erbers, Shaqiri in the middle, and Chris Mueller. And Hugo Kuipers listed as being up top. Obviously, Sijos with being the reinforcements for Aragoni on the left-hand side. That was where it looked like RSL ended up getting a lot of their attacks. Aragoni punched a 6.2, Sijos a 6.5. The right-hand side, Teran and Soquet punched a 7.3 and a 7.0 in SofaScore last time out. Aragoni, just to give you an idea, 90 minutes, 1 clearance, 1 block, 2 picks, 5 tackles. 3 times he was dribbled past, 10 for 20 on duels, and 10 of 19 on the ground, and lost possession. Alan Aragoni lost possession last week against RSL 21 times. 21. I have not seen a number that high this year. 76 touches, 81% passing. Did not connect on a cross or a long ball the entire time, and was 1 of 5 on the dribble. So Aragoni had himself a long day on that left-hand side for Chicago Fire. Substitutes on the bench for Frank Klopas. Koutsias came in for Shaqiri. Gaston Jimenez only lasted 45 minutes and came in at 45. Navarro only lasted 45. Then Tom Barlow came in after Jimenez only lasted 15. And then Barlow lasted 30. On the bench, Wyatt Omsberg, Andrew Gutman, and the little ball of hate, Johnny Dean. So, I mean, there's some thing that Chicago can be had here. And it's just for Jared, I think, for Atlanta United to sit there and look at the tape against RSL, keep pounding, and I don't think you can flop Sijos and make him go to the outside. So it might be another long day down the defending on the left, attacking down the right for Atlanta United going up against Chicago on Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to be clinical when you get chances. We'll see how much you're able to really control that game and kind of pin Chicago in. I wouldn't be shocked if Chicago tries to come out like a little ball of fire to start things and try and get you on the back foot. But you have to weather that. We talked about this with the twos the other night, John, that you're going to have to suffer.
Yeah.
You have to. It's just, it's part of it. It's not like, it's not the end of the world if you're suffering. And that's just part of how you're going to have to play the game. You're going to have to have moments where you suffer and where you're mentally tough. And the funny part is, I feel like that's where Atlanta failed last year.
Yeah.
In those moments where they had to suffer and they had letdowns, you were giving up goals where, guys were, not where they needed to be, not rotating. I think a lot in the first half of last season was we saw a lot of guys like not diving in front of shots, not throwing your body out there, not just giving every inch and every ounce of energy you had. You're doing that this year more. I thought the Cincinnati game was a good example of you gave up 2 shots off the post because you got into transition situations, which is what Cincy does with everyone. It's why Cincy won a Shield.
Yeah,
they get you in those transition moments where they are built to run. But you're doing better in those moments. Yeah, it's just the mistakes, and I know it's the silly moments that people are mad about for like the last 3 years. It just feels like it's different silly moments. Like you have, and that I think is where a lot of the frustration we got out of Gonzalo Pineda last weekend is that we had silly moments last year. We addressed those. You have a better midfield. You have a better center back group. You are 4 deep at center back. You might be 5 deep because Efra is going to force his way. into that conversation. So you fixed one of those problems. And I mean, it has to be like a throw your hands in the air in frustration of, we fixed that problem. Why now have you guys decided to have different problems? No, no, no. We addressed the main problem in terms of, also, you want to know, you want like one of the things that might have helped last year is when you put Caleb back at left back and you moved Gutman. As much as I love Andrew Gutman, I think he's an incredible attacking left back, and I think he's a great guy to have in any locker room.
Yeah.
But I think you got a little more knife between the teeth when you put Caleb back there at left back and pulled him off left wing.
Right.
And then you got more bodies on the left wing going forward.
Yep. All right. So that's what we're staring at with Atlanta United and Chicago. And other matchups in Major League Soccer, I'll run through the grid and we can sit there and play cliffhanger. If there's anybody that stands out to you, we can talk about it, because we got to talk matches in the Major League Soccer, USL Championship, USL League One. Austin hosting LAG. I think take the over. It's the early game at 145. Crew and CF Montreal, the Wilfred Nancy Bowl at Crew Stadium. Crew's a minus 175. No Joseph for the next 8 to 12 weeks. You don't have Kokoto either for the next 7 to 11 weeks. You're hurting up top at striker. DC hosting Seattle. DC's actually favored at a plus 122. Cincinnati hosting the Rapids. Cincinnati at a minus 132. Rapids are north of plus 350 to win that one on the road. Revs hosting Messi and Friends. Fix your fantasy teams, people. Fix your fantasy teams. Jason Wright Agency, Jason Wright with a WAGEN on Twitter, Jason Wright Agency on Facebook. The Revs are a plus 200. Miami's favored on the road. NYC hosting Charlotte at a minus 125. Red Bulls hosting Vancouver at a minus 159. Vancouver on the road, north of plus 400. Orlando City, the purple team hosting Toronto FC. Orlando City's a minus 196. Toronto, by the way, north of plus 540. Philadelphia hosting RSL in the most intriguing matchup, I think, short of obviously Chicago and Atlanta for geography bias. Philadelphia minus 122 at home hosting RSL. RSL's a plus 305.
Yeah, that might be. Philadelphia has been riding some luck. This season, and also we talked to Rich about it. Like, it's a veteran team. They're gonna lack depth. I think they're kind of riding some luck that eventually it's going to run. RSL's the kind of team that'll take that luck from you and will beat you upside the head with it. Doesn't mean that the fate of Philadelphia is sealed all year long. I can see this kind of being the game where it kind of gets sideways, because despite what everyone at MLS is trying to push, with the Luis Suarez bandwagon or the Messi bandwagon, Chicho Arango is your MVP right now. I don't want to hear anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I do not want to hear anything else.
Copa Tejas, FC Dallas hosting Houston Dynamo. Dynamo a slight favorite on the road at a plus 165 initially. That one was even Steven at plus 168 on both sides. The juice boxers were like, we don't know. Minnesota United hosting Sporting Kansas City, slight favorite on the plus side. Minnesota United at plus 102. Nashville and San Jose at 8:30.
Minnesota United, they brought in a manager who then, I think they benched Pookie last week.
Yeah, they did. I mean, and
it worked. I mean, they went in and smacked the living hell out of Charlotte, which was really weird. Like, even the comments out of Charlotte were like, that game was weird. Apparently there were issues between the front office and the supporters groups, and there wasn't a march, and everybody was flat, and Minnesota just smacked them around for 2 hours.
Yep.
I have questions. Very.
And listening to Will and Jess, that team was down early in the first half and had no answers. And the last 25 to 30 minutes of the broadcast, it's like, okay, so where do we go and try to talk about things? You're like going to chapter 7 and 8 trying to figure out how to fill that final 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Nashville hosting San Jose. Nashville minus side at minus 105 because San Jose is awful. And
this
Jared's quakes. Jared's kind of thinking about it.
No, I'm thinking about this as like a trash off.
Yeah. Take the under.
Well, So Nashville looked better in the first 20 minutes against Miami last week, and probably should have tried to put that game away, and they failed to do so. And Miami ended up beating them, so they looked a little bit better. But if you lose to the Quakes,
Yeah. Ooh.
well, so here's the thing: you're going to probably fall behind. The Quakes are going to find a goal somewhere.
Yeah.
They just are. They're outperforming their XG. They're going to find a goal. They can't protect a lead to save their lives. They are full falconing it every week.
Mm-hmm. They are.
If you
LAFC
can't come back on them, I got questions.
Yep, LAFC's a minus 196 in the late game, hosting the Timbers, who are pushing plus 500. That's what's going on in MLS on the weekend. Juice boxes in USL Championship with a handful of matches there tonight. Our Mogul in training, Michael Parkhurst hosting Phoenix at a plus 145. Favored at home at Bryant University. That's a big one. You've got tomorrow Charleston hosting Vegas. Charleston a big favorite, a minus 185. Indy 11, North Carolina. The Miami FC is a dog at home, basically a plus 400 as San Antonio comes to town. Pittsburgh and Detroit City. Birmingham and Memphis in an interesting one with our buddy Stephen Glass at a plus 183 heading to Birmingham to take on the Legion and their two jerseys at a plus 127. Lou City hosting Hartford. Big on the minus side.
Hey, has Maddie bought any of the new Birmingham kits yet? Do we know?
Oh, I think Maddie has silenced herself on purpose on that one. She is truly keeping. She's hitting the mute button.
She is saying no comment.
Yeah, she is definitely doing that because if it was otherwise, there might be legitimately some of this.
That might be what's happening right now.
Yeah. So, Maddie, discretion being the better part of valor.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
There you go. Thank you, Kurt.
Because I brought the new Birmingham kit to her attention yesterday, and all I got back was all caps of "I am well aware."
I was well aware. I was.
Yes.
Listen, gosh, Jay Heaps. Listen, I said it in the morning. I'll say it again. Jay Heaps. Listen, what do I need to do? Tell me. I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah. And to distract you, Bart has a question.
Okay. I love this question. Okay.
Yeah. The top
Hold on.
five. The top
Ooh.
5 Taylor Swift songs from the new album.
Oh my God, that's so hard.
Yeah.
So
yeah, post them in the Twitch pitch. When you have your answers, post them in the Twitch.
Well, I think I have my answer.
Okay.
My first one, I have to go. Who's Afraid of Little Old Me? I think that's my favorite so far. The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived.
2.
Can Do It With a Broken Heart. Florida with Florence and the Machine. And So Long London.
Okay. What's the one where she's talking about her alleged her relationship with Travis Kelce? What's the one where she's acting like the girl in high school? What are those lyrics?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the one where she's talking about the relationship with Travis Kelce.
Oh. If you're talking about the high school one, that would be So High School.
Yeah, okay. It might be. Alex is like the way you're feeling right now is how I feel when you talk wrestling. Wrestling is a gladiatorial based soap opera. That is how I look at wrestling, and I look at it more for writing and and continuity than I do for anything else. So that's why we always reference face, heel, good guy, bad guy, those kinds of things in that kind of a purview. So that's why we discuss it in those terms. Kind of like where Varingham Forest has gone full heel with their discussions about how things are in the Premier League, and they wag their finger. They wag their finger at you. Those kinds of things. USL Championship. Bart wants to know if you're going to Fort Lauderdale. If with a Florida lyric caption. Okay, so there you go.
Ooh.
See, Bart's giving you ideas now.
He is giving me ideas. Well, here's the thing. I'm actually going we do a family vacation like every couple of years, and we're actually going to St. Augustine, Florida. So you just gave me an idea for what I'm doing for that Instagram post.
Lou City favored heavy against Hartford Athletic at home. Tampa Bay favored heavy as New Mexico United comes to visit. El Paso favored slightly against FC Tulsa as FC Tulsa comes to Southwest University Park. Oakland Roots, who signed Dom Dwyer, by the way. They are favored at home against Colorado Springs, who have just not started the season well. Orange County, our friends at the O&B, they are favored hosting Monterey Bay. Sacramento Republic, huge favorite as Loudoun comes to town. That's the late game on Saturday in USL Championship. MLS Next Pro has a couple of sets of odds out, and none of them have to do with Atlanta United 2 at the moment. But really looking forward to the twos. It is a full Atlanta-Chicago weekend for what's going on with Atlanta and Chicago. So it's the first team on Saturday night, second team Sunday afternoon in Bridgeview in front of tens of people. Did you hear that Manchester United are in discussions with Disney to strike a multi-million-dollar deal to create documentaries, plural, about the club? According to sources familiar with the talks, and this is from our buddy Adam Crafton at The Athletic, speaking anonymously due to their confidential nature, the production would focus on the club's era of success under legendary coach Sir Alex Ferguson. Notice they didn't say a thing about modern-day behind-the-scenes stuff. Club and Disney Plus are in talks over a documentary that would include a substantial interview with Ferguson, provide access to club archive footage, as well as insight from club ambassadors. Deal hasn't been finalized because United is holding out for improved terms.
So just go up the road to a certain team on the North Sea and just go do a documentary about Alex Ferguson's success with another club then.
Aberdeen.
You have to go off about it. Aberdeen just went out and hired a manager from outside of Scotland. I'm floored.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
Psychopaths.
Yes.
I'm so proud of you, Aberdeen. Even if this doesn't work, you went and it's not even just about hiring a non-Scottish coach. You hired someone who wasn't a retread from within the league. I'm very proud of you. Even if it doesn't work, I'm proud of you for the same reason I was proud of Celtic when they hired Ronnie Deila or when they hired Ange Postecoglou. Get outside of your comfort zone with it. The only person in tears right now is probably Neil Lennon.
Yeah, because he wanted the gig. You know how we've been kvetching about VAR, and it's been folks have been yelling their head off about the whole thing. Sweden
Only when it's bad, yes.
Well, Sweden has become the first country to refuse to use VAR following a fan revolt against its introduction. Ben Rumsby at The Telegraph. The president of the Swedish Football Association confirmed VAR would not be implemented in its competitions, having previously proclaimed the system, quote, our future, end quote. The climb down reflects Swedish clubs being at least 51% fan-owned and fierce resistance among supporters to VAR's introduction. The former prime minister of Sweden told Aftonbladet more than half of the top 32 teams opposed VAR. He says 18 of the 32 did. So the Swedish Professional Football League's group said it would campaign against VAR being trialed this autumn. So it appears that Sweden will not be VARing. Way to go, Sweden.
All right. Well, good luck.
It's on you. And apparently Eric Ten Hag is now refusing to take questions from journalists who have been critical of Manchester United's form.
So everyone.
Yeah. It's like, I'm only here so I don't get fined, and none of you can ask me any questions.
Have we considered the fact? Have we considered the fact that maybe Manchester United is just designed to break coaches?
That could very well be. That could absolutely very well be. And it looks like Graham Potter is being shown interest at Ajax. I don't know if you really want to go there these days. With how things are, Manchester United has marked their 250th Academy graduate. You know, good on you. Congratulations. Mazel tov and all that. Good, good work by you. Like I said, we were talking about the West Ham and the folks that wish to be interviewed or that they wish to interview for the position. And so, like I said, it looks like Lopetegui, and he is now part of the discussion as well. So we'll see that. But, yeah, Premier League hearing in the near future. I'm turning 74 in the near future, too. So, congratulations on that timetable, probably happening like never. That'll go over well. But, yeah, so it's going to be an interesting weekend when it comes to all of this stuff, all across the board. I know that Bart is kind of keeping his head low when it comes to Arsenal and their weekend. We'd mentioned what was going on there. And a little bit of the Premier League, like I said, Manchester City, they won yesterday over Brighton. No, not really a surprise. Phil Foden continues to be amazing. Liverpool's at West Ham. It's a very busy Saturday. Liverpool at West Ham, Crystal Palace at Fulham, Burnley at Manchester United, Newcastle hosting Sheffield United, Wolves hosting Luton, Everton hosting Brentford. Zombie Everton continues to climb its way out of the bottom of the table, and Villa is hosting Chelsea. You end up with the other three matches on Sunday. Bournemouth hosting Brighton, Spurs hosting Arsenal, and Arsenal's a minus 132. Nottingham Forest at City Ground is a plus 875 as Manchester City comes to town at a minus 323. We mentioned the standings and how things are. Arsenal, 1 point ahead of Manchester City. Manchester City with a match in hand. Liverpool has played 34. They have 4 to go, and they are 3 points behind. Maddie, any last thoughts from you before we go? And I'll ask the same of Jarrett, but we believe in chivalry here. So, Maddie, what else is on your mind before we go?
Oh, fun weekend. Vamos ATL. Excited to go kick off the Georgia Impact season. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. And Jay Heaps, please. Simple. That's it.
Oh, that's it. She's got to keep after her Birmingham Legionness. Jarrett, last thoughts for the weekend before we go.
When Bart asked about your top 5 TTPD songs, I did not know what that meant.
I didn't either.
I had no.
It's Tortured Poets Department. It's Taylor Swift's new album.
I know what it is now. I just didn't know what the abbreviation was. I was not prepared for that. Nor was I prepared to know that you had like a top 5 already locked down comfortably, like on top of mine.
It's one of those where I listen to it again and it changes like each time, but those have been the solid 5 that I've been listening to on repeat.
I wondered what Barb was getting at, but no, that makes sense. Okay, no, we're good.
Just checking.
No, by all means, go enjoy it. Have fun. It's not my cup of tea, but by all means, I hope y'all enjoy it thoroughly.
And so I mean, I'm still trying to do the research and get all of that figured back out and see what's going on with TTPD. Let's see. So Maddie and I are going to be at Reformation Brewing up in Canton for the beginning of the Georgia Impact season and the rollout of jerseys and folks and people. And it's going to be fun to catch up with our friends at Georgia Impact today. Once again, soccer is in session live at noon, and we're going to have some guests. It looks like in the second half hour, it's going to be John Bowen from Stars Mill and also the head coach from LaGrange. One of the 4 seeds that's won twice. We'll catch up with them. Efforting a third guest in the first half hour of the show. Dell missed the entire show and wants to know if we talked about the new Birmingham Legion jersey.
Dell, you already sent me the link on freaking Twitter. Yes, we talked about it.
She's a little bit
a little fiery.
A little fired up right now, Dell.
A little fiery, Dell.
I did the same thing. I sent it to her, and she was very
she was
very cross about it.
Maddie went in all caps and has been on this particular topic. So Maddie and I will be at Reformation tonight up in Canton. Come by, say hi as Georgia Impact gets ready for 2024. Soccer's in session live at noon. We'll have guests, and Jason will be in Chicago, and we will have the broadcast from Bridgeview on Sunday afternoon here on the network. So it'll be very, very full. Thanks to all of you guys in the Twitch pitch all week long. And thanks to all of you who watch, listen, or are part of it. Thanks to all of our guests. Thanks to all of our experts. Thanks to all of our quotes and all of our stuff. And the last person I'm not going to thank is the internet. 2 straight days in a row, you've messed things up. And you didn't tell me that you were going to mess things up. So that's a bit of a not cool. But anyway, soccer's in session live at noon. We're going to talk stuff. We're going to talk brackets. We're going to talk with coaches and go around the state here. It is coming up on the last day of round 2 of the playoffs. We're going to talk GHSA playoffs coming up. And the Flippin' Birds have made it to the final 8. They're going to take on Midtown, and Jason is a happy man. So let's see. Since both of you got in last thoughts, I'm just going to go ahead and say goodbye, and we'll get back at it at noon in short order because we got to organize guests. Thank you, Michael. Thanks to everybody who was here this morning on the Twitch pitch. Thanks to Greg Garza and our friends at BG Mentoring for the Friday Free Kick. So for Jarrett, for Maddie, I'm just John. Thanks for hanging out with us for another go-round of SDH on a Monday through a Friday. We back at it before you know it. Play it safe, everybody. Mucha plot to y'all. And since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this when we back at it again. 45 minutes or so, maybe 50, something like that. But we'll be back soon.